Hey everyone, welcome to the Diabetes Unlocked podcast. I'm Tom.
And I'm Christelle. Between us, we have over 60 years of experience living with type 1 diabetes.
And in this episode, we're comparing all the CGMs that you'll see on the market next year. From the ones that you know to the ones that are brand new and some of them haven't even launched.
That's right. We tested all of them almost. It will let you know what we loved about them, maybe also what we didn't love that much. And also, who are these sensors really for? Let's get into it.
I'm actually super excited, Crystal. I don't know if you can tell about this episode because I feel CGMs is one of the topics that we really like to talk about. We already had a bunch of episodes on different models, and today we'll just cover them all. Also, we will be looking in the future, like what's coming next year, because we're at the end of the year. So I'm super excited to talk about that and get your thoughts on some of the new things. And we will, of course, cover FreeStyle Libre portfolio, Dexcom. We'll talk about the first implantable 365-day CGM from Eversense, which is this small guy here. And we'll even talk about a CGM that can see the future or predict the future that I just recently tested. So we'll cover them all. And there's more. There's more than just this, but these are the most interesting ones for me. So which ones are you excited about? Which one we should start with?
Well, I think we should start with the most widely prescribed one, just because that's kind of like, I think by a lot of doctors perceived as the golden standard for CGMs. So I think that would be a logical way to start. And then we'll also get into the nitty gritty, of course, of like, there's a Chinese sensor on our list and some other exciting stuff. But yeah, do you want to just start with that one? And I also want to point out that anyone who's been listening to our other episodes, you heard us talk about CGMs. This is different though. This episode is different in the sense that we're going to basically go a little bit deeper, I think, on some of these. And I think it can also be a really helpful tool, this episode, for like, which sensor should we be using in 2026?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. So let's start with the number one on the market, and that's Abbott. And I think we agree that sort of like the flagship of Abbott is this guy, FreeStyle Libre 3 Plus, which is the newest and the more, just the best sensor they have. And I really liked it. I used it, and I know that you used it too. So I thought we would first say, like, what we loved about Libre 3. Why would we tell someone, hey, this is a great sensor for you to get on or to switch to?
If I would like to highlight three things about the FreeStyle Libre 3 Plus, I like the size. It's the smallest sensor available in the market. I think it's really easy to use. So I think even if you're not tech savvy, this is a really easy sensor to use. You just plug it on, it connects with your phone. And I think overall, at least for me, and thank you for sharing all the props, Tom. I appreciate that. At least for me, it was fairly accurate, I would say. So those would be my three top things for FreeStyle Libre 3 Plus. Do they overlap with yours?
Yeah, pretty much. I think I really love how small it is. It's the smallest CGM in the world of those that you can apply yourself or put on yourself. It has the size of 2 stacked pennies, as I read in the materials. And yesterday when I was doing the research, I realized it only weighs 1.1 gram. So it weighs like nothing. When you compare it to all the other CGMs, there's nothing even close to that. Like Dexcom G7, which is the competitor, has 7.5 grams. So it's like 7 times heavier, which I didn't even realize when I was using them. But it's like really small, and I think that makes it super discreet. And that's what we both liked about it. What I also love is that it now integrates with insulin pumps. Not all of them yet, but we'll get to why not in a second. And yeah, I just ran through a few more points that I wrote about Libre 3 Plus. It's all-in-one disposable CGM. It's a 15-day lifetime, 60-minute warm-up, and it's cleared for 2 years old and older. So it's, pretty much anyone can sort of use it. And Abbott has a new app. At least in the US, they launched a new app, which is better than the old one, which makes it pretty exciting. And one last thing I wrote about this, which is sort of like a little bit nerdy kind of thing, because I feel like it's not really important for anybody, but I like this thing, is that the sensor itself can keep the data that it collects for 15 days. So even if it's not connected to the app, it will keep the data for 15 days. And when you connect after 15 days, you will kind of download all the data to your phone or the reader, which like no other sensor can really do. And so I find that quite exciting. Is there anything that I missed?
I found it was super impressive how long it would stick to my skin. This sensor did not move. I also sensors do tend to stick on my skin, and I know we're all different, but I would say that. Also, to your point about the app, they do have a new app that allow you to silence the sensor. This is still not the sensor on the market that has the best app, but they're working on it. They launched a new one as well that's called My FreeStyle. I don't know if you used it. I haven't used it yet, but basically they claim that it has an AI functionality that can recognize food and cart count and stuff like that. So they're definitely developing on this sensor, maybe not on the form factor, the actual sensor, but they're working on the surroundings, let's say like that, on the app functionalities. It is another app. I don't love that I keep having to download new apps, but I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is, because I think the hardware is really good, but they were a little bit lagging or falling behind on the software side. So I didn't even know about this new app. So that's probably something that will be coming to more people next year. But yeah, it's exciting. So I wrote here, who is it for? And correct me if you have different opinion on this. But I wrote, it's a great all-around CGM option. It's sort of like a gold standard, but it's for those people who are not looking for the most sophisticated software, who don't need all the bells and whistles of like extending your alarm or customizing your alarms and customizing, different sort of views in the app. And so I think, otherwise I think it makes sense for a lot of people to use this sensor. And I think it's a great choice.
Yeah. I think it's also, especially here in the US, it's one of those that's most widely accepted by insurance. So it might be a more affordable option. So I think you're right. It is I would have it like kind of running in the background when wearing it. I wouldn't be interacting as much with it as I am with other sensors. So I think that's a really good point.
Cool. So let's just quickly run through like the other sensors in the Abbott portfolio, because it's not only the Libre 3 Plus, and I know many countries where people might be watching, they don't have this one yet. So maybe just to compare the main differences. And I think the one we should talk about first is Libre 3. So not 3 Plus, but 3, which is basically the same exact hardware. It's only 1 day shorter lifetime, right? 14 days. And it doesn't really integrate with insulin pumps. There is a little exception in Europe. It works with the Ipso pump and MyLife Loop. But generally the idea is, okay, this is the one that doesn't integrate with the pumps, 1 day shorter, and it only works or it's only clear for 4 years and older. But other than that, it's basically identical. And then we have the whole list of Libre 2s, or the whole list. We have a couple of Libre 2s. So we have Libre 2, which I have here, and Libre 2 Plus. And I kind of want to start with Libre 2 Plus because that one is really close to Libre 3 Plus. Slow me down if I'm going too fast.
No, you get.
But Libre 2 Plus is actually a lot bigger than Libre 3, and it has this, this two-piece inserter. So you kind of need to put it together. It's like a lot more bulky to insert. But other than that, except, it's bigger than Libre 3. There's a size of 2/4. It actually has a lot of features of Libre 3 Plus. The 2 Plus is also a 15-day, and it integrates mostly with those pumps that Libre 3 Plus doesn't integrate with yet. So it's kind of, some people who are maybe on Omnipod or Tandem, Mobi, these pumps don't integrate with Libre 3 Plus yet. So that's why they would need to go for Libre 2 Plus. Am I getting that right, Crystal? Please correct me if I'm saying something that...
No. It doesn't really make sense that the older sensor would work with more stuff, but that's the case. I will also add that, for example, the FreeStyle Libre 3 has been discontinued in the US, so you can't get it anymore. You are forced to switch over to the 3 Plus, and that happened earlier this year. So most listeners would probably already be on 3 Plus and not even be able to get 3. I don't see any reason to be on the older versions either. There's no upside, in my opinion, to be on the 3 or the 2 versus the pluses.
Yes, that's right. I don't think there is any reason except one, and that's when you are in sort of like a DIY space where you're using the loop app, for example, like I do. I'm on Dexcom, so I don't know exactly which Libre sensor works with the DIY solution. I just know that the newer sensors definitely don't work. And I just know one of the cons of FreeStyle Libre in general that I always kind of think about, okay, this is not great, is that when you're not on a commercial solution, you're like on a DIY solution that it's developed by the community, diabetes community, and you are a little bit more geeky and want to get into this kind of stuff, then Libre is not great for that, and especially the newer sensors. So I know a lot of people use the very, very old Libre One that we don't even talk about today, which is so old, just because it was easier to connect it to more, algorithms in the DIY space. So I think that would be probably the only reason why not to go for Plus, but go for something older.
Another thing that we just forgot to mention is, and this, if you heard Tom and I talk about Libre before, our big stick is you can't calibrate the sensor. So if the CGM readings are off, tough luck. There's nothing you can do except for, if they're very off, you can contact Abbott and ask for a replacement. But if it's within that plus minus 20%, then it is what it is, which I think is concerning.
But you can use a reader, right? Because some of the CGMs we will be talking about later on can only be used with a phone app, but with FreeStyle Libre, pretty much regardless what model you use, in most situations you can still use a reader. So if you don't want to have a phone, you want to go with something separate, dedicated to the sensor, then there's always this option. And I think only Abbott and Dexcom does it, but the other more, let's say, alternative CGMs we talked about a bit later, they don't provide a reader, but they provide some other things.
One thing is the apps, right? And we have the upgrades to integrate with more pumps. And I think Abbott is really trying to build this ecosystem of sensors, because they also have the biosensors that came out. So like the Lingo that came out here in the US, which is a biosensor. So Tom is showing that here. It's a biosensor, so it's not a CGM. The big difference is just you don't need a prescription, but it's based on, I would say it's CGM gamification. That's kind of the word I would use for it. It is not meant for people who live with diabetes. It is the same size as the Libre 2, but it's basically, they've taken the hardware and then they stripped a lot of the functionalities out. And then again, they made it a little bit of gamification based on something they call Lingo points. So it's basically, you're supposed to try and stay in range and not have blood sugar spikes. And it's not meant for someone like you and I would say, Tom, because I tried it and I found it annoying, because it's meant for people who have a functioning pancreatic system that can manage their blood sugars a little bit more aggressively than we can. But I think it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think the Lingo provides sort of like a different way of looking at the glucose data. So it's not, I feel like they don't even think, or the app, actually the app visually looks amazing. It looks so much better than any other FreeStyle Libre app. You can click pretty much anywhere and then it opens, or it shows you like a data points when you slide your finger on the graph. It's just like so much more, it's just so not old school like the Libre apps usually are. So it's like modern looking, and that's what I like about it. But they kind of take all the difficult or hard to understand things about glucose out of the picture, so that we don't think of target range that much, or like HbA1c, but we think of lingos. I guess the idea is kind of like when you mess up, when you eat, I don't know, an ice cream, your glucose will spike, and then they will start awarding you with lingos. I guess the less lingos you have, the better you're doing. That's the idea. And when I used it, I thought I need to have at least 60 lingos per day. But then it turned out I should have less than 60. I was like, I'm doing really well. I have like 85. But then I realized, okay, I'm actually not doing so well, because I'm supposed to have less than 60. So me, with like an old brain of a person with diabetes, looking at these lingos, I sort of like couldn't get it, because it was completely different mindset of like interpreting the data. But it makes it fun, I guess. It's a really use gamification. I think it's perfect term for this, because it's just made like simple for you, and it sends you one notification per day, doesn't send you any alarms. And so for someone who is more in the lifestyle space, or pre-diabetes space, maybe it might add some value, although I think it's not labeled for diabetes at all.
It's not, but I mean, you can do whatever you want with that one, because you just go on their website and you order it, and it's a prescription model. You can buy 1 month, you can buy again as a prescription, and it's $89 in the US for a month's supply. So I would say that if this might be a cheaper way of getting a CGM, and if you use it retrospectively, is that the right word? If you just go back and look at your data, it might be a good tool, but it won't give you alarms. It only measures from, is it 55 to 200? So it does have some limitations. It's not and so it's not the sensor I would go for. Also, it's based on FreeStyle Libre 2, so I don't know if I said that. It's a big sensor.
Yeah, and it also measures the glucose only in the range of like the normal range between 55 and 200 milligrams per deciliter. So if your glucose is 300, you will not even know what it is because it just so shows you it's above 200. And so that's why it's just not so helpful for people with diabetes. But if we were 30 years back when we didn't have any CGM, I was just using my, test strips and not even have a blood glucose meter. Okay, this would be actually really helpful to have, but that's not where we are. So today, not for people with diabetes, not meant for them.
Well, they are developing what's it called, the Libre Rio, which is meant for people with they have got approval, it's just not here yet. The Libre Rio, which is going to be for people with type 2 diabetes who do not use insulin. So that's kind of what I think is really exciting about Abbott, how they're expanding their portfolio to create products that seem to suit specific subgroups, right? So they're like, well, maybe the FreeStyle Libre 3 Plus and all the new apps is more for the multiple daily injections or the pumpers of the world, insulin dependent, and then they're going to have a part of the portfolio that's for type 2s who do not take insulin, then they're going to have the biosensors. So I hope that we here in 2026 are going to see that whole ecosystem sort of bloom with the Rio as well.
Yeah, it's based on Libre 3 Plus, so it will be nice and tiny. But they are really behind because they were supposed to launch it this year, and there's actually no talk about this, so I wonder why. And I'm hoping it will come because I feel, okay, some sort of like lower cost tool for people with type 2 is sort of missing, especially in the US. And we're talking a lot from the US perspective. Just to make it clear, in Europe, where I am, we don't have Lingo, we don't have Rio. Like, you cannot go to the pharmacy and buy it because it's not here. And the reason I think is because here you can just go to the pharmacy and without a prescription, you can buy any CGM you want. So you don't need this different designation. I guess that's why they're not even bringing it here. But it's quite expensive, so I would prefer to go to the pharmacy to buy a Rio for half price of FreeStyle Libre. But it's not the option right now. So let's see. But it's definitely some exciting stuff coming up in 2026 from Abbott. And before we talk about Dexcom, which is the next one we have on the list, I think one more exciting thing that they are developing is the dual monitoring system. So glucose monitor and ketone monitor. So CGM and CKM in one sensor. We don't know when it will launch. Possible that we will see something next year. But I see that there are also other opportunities for improvement for Abbott. And especially, I think, in the software space where you mentioned, okay, there is maybe new app coming that you've seen. I think they can improve so much. I think they could add calibration for the people who are on the pump, for example. I really want to be able to calibrate Libre. And the hardware is great, but I think they can still do more in the software space. And let's hope they will do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just that they're not trying to create one sensor that can do everything, which I read. And I think that's also what we're going to talk about later on. It seems like they're even like branching into some of the other brands and putting their sensor, under some of the other brands. So I'm jumping ahead, but they're definitely, they have their game is on, I think, for 26. They do.
Yeah. I think the profit and loss statement or income statement of Abbott is looking pretty good, and they are making a lot of money. But that's another topic for another podcast, I guess. So should we move to Dexcom next? And I guess I'll let you introduce the flagship of Dexcom because you're actually using it on a daily basis. So I think it only makes sense if you talk about it a bit and what you love about it.
Sure. So the second sensor umbrella we're going to talk about is the Dexcom umbrella because that is the second most prescribed CGM. And their flagship right now is the Dexcom G7. That is the sensor that I use and really like. It is also really small. It's the smallest of the Dexcom portfolio. It is a 10-day sensor right now with a 12-hour grace period, but there's some new stuff coming in I think it'll be in 2026 because it's supposed to be end of 2025, but we'll talk about that in a second. What I really like is that it's a big upgrade, I think, from the earlier versions. It's one device, so it's easier to insert. Sometimes it can be a little hard to push the button, but still. I love how advanced the alarm features are. That's probably the best thing about G7, in my opinion, is how you can adjust the sensor to fit you. So I feel like that's the only sensor on the market that can really do that.
I completely agree. I think it gives you so much more versatility when it comes to alarms, and you have different alarm profiles, but also in terms of like what devices you use to receive the data, because unlike FreeStyle Libre, Dexcom allows you to use 3 different like independent Bluetooth connection at the same time. So you can use a phone, you can use this reader that they also have, and you can use Apple Watch, for example. Or if you have a pump, okay, you have a pump and you throw out one of these other 3, but I guess not phone, but one of the other 2. But I think just like a lot more options. I think it's great for people like us who are really on top of the data, to have all these little things that you can play with. And yeah, it's really exciting. I think it's just Dexcom G7 is the CGM that gives you the most bells and whistles. We're saying Abbott doesn't give you that, but Dexcom G7, I think it does.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, Crystal?
Definitely. I mean, and it's not just a gimmick. I feel like they're really, really useful features because you can adjust all the alarms to fit you and your lifestyle. It's actually the sensor with the shortest warm-up period. It is 30 minutes, but it can be as little as 0, meaning that you can have a seamless CGM experience where you just have one sensor after the other. So I think especially if you're on a automated insulin delivery pump, it's nice to not have that 2-hour for some or a 1-hour for Libre warm-up period where you don't get any readings. So I really like that. I think it has some quirks. And there's some things that's not working. Where we just talked about it linking to pumps. I know a lot of folks, at least a lot of people are reaching out to me saying they're having connectivity issues with Tandem and with Omnipod, which is obviously not ideal. So they can still see the readings on the phone or in the app or in the receiver or in the watch, but it's not showing up on the pump, which I don't know if it's a Dexcom issue or if it's a pump issue. And I know that's not what we're here to discuss, but it's not ideal, right? If you have an automated insulin delivery system, the two need to be able to communicate. And I think that's creating a lot of frustrations. We also have had some weird issues with Dexcom. The gooseneck, where the sensor is actually not inserting, but sort of popping up through the sensor instead of going in through the skin. We're having some inaccuracy. We're having it just failed sensors lately, which unfortunately, I think has created a lot of, again, uncertainty in their world community. I still think it's the best sensor on the market, but I am really well aware of those issues.
I agree. I think in terms of features, it really is the best, because like you can log your food and other medication in the app, for example. Like you can use it in a DIY setup. So again, it's back to versatility, right? You can calibrate it to your actual blood glucose reading. So it's sort of like in many life situations where other sensor you would not be able to really work with it fully. I think Dexcom allows you to take certain like specific customized way of approaching things. Okay, do you want a DIY loop on your phone? You don't want to deal with commercial system? Hey, you can have it. Dexcom is not telling you to do that, but they kind of let you do that in the background. And also with the warm up, as you talked about, like the 30-minute warm-up time is the shortest, but it's actually there's 0 warm-up time, because with the combination of the 12-hour grace period and the fact that the sensor starts when you insert it automatically, you can completely eliminate any gap in the graph. So I know that we're talking on all these terms, but what it means is actually it's possible to use Dexcom G7 one after another and not have any gap in your graph, in your data when you do it right. And I think that's where they really listened to what the community wanted, and they sort of applied it to Dexcom G7. And I would just add that Dexcom G7 is also cleared for 2 years and older officially. And my little nerdy insight is that the sensor itself holds the data for 24 hours. Even if you don't connect it to an app for 24 hours, you will not lose the data. But I guess most people don't really care about that because we're connected all the time. That's kind of the point of CGM. I just find it fascinating that they do these little things in the background to compete with one another, because I feel like Abbott and Dexcom, they always like try to be better in something, and they put it on the commercials to beat the other one. By the way, both Dexcom G7 and FreeStyle Libre 3 are the most accurate sensors on the market. Both of these companies kind of say that in different language, right? I don't know how that is possible, but I guess it's fair to say like both have been very accurate for me. So I sort of agree with both of them. They are both most accurate.
Well, I mean, I know that's a side discussion, but that's also because, accuracy for CGMs are measured something called MARD, MARD. And I think the issue in the latest couple of years has been they all like diverted from that one way that everybody measured MARD. And now they just measure MARD in whatever way is more,
More favorable.
for them, favorable. Thank you. Most favorable for them. Meaning now we have all the sensors saying we're the best with the, it's really interesting. I would say, I mean, I kind of alluded to it. Dexcom G7 is getting an upgrade. We're promised this upgrade at end of 2025. I don't know if it's going to be here until 26, but let's see. When this episode goes out, this might be old news. But really cool is that the Dexcom G7 will become a 15-day sensor. So that means it's not going to be 10 days and 12 hours. It's going to be 15 days and 12 hours, making it the longest duration sensor. They just got those 12 hours in. That made it like the longest one because Libre is 15 days. So I think that's super exciting for me because the sensor stays on. The question is though, will it stay on for the full day, 15 days for everyone? Also, I mean, just my last one, for example, was super wonky the last 12 hours to the point where I had to request a replacement from Dexcom. If they all like get wonky after 10 days, will we all end up just like, well, we'll just get a lot of free sensors, I guess. But I'm excited to see that. That's kind of the biggest news for 2026 when it comes to Dexcom. I don't know if you've heard anything else.
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing for 2026 from Dexcom, I think, is really the extension of lifetime to 15 days. They already improved a lot of things, and I think that's the main thing they have right now. I just wanted to add, like, again, sort of like a verdict or who Dexcom G7 is for. What I wrote down, you can disagree with me, obviously. I think the app is a little bit feature heavy, so it might be a little bit too complex for some people. So it's definitely not like the best tool for everybody, but I wrote down is best for users who are not only looking for reliable best-in-class CGM, but also need like a high level of customization, wide range of alarm settings, a lot of options to connect with other third-party apps or DIY solutions, and basically people who are looking for like an advanced app with a lot of features. I think that's who Dexcom G7 is for. And it's not, I guess, not the cheapest solution on the market. You know, maybe it's also not the best option depending where you are, what your situation is with insurance, stuff like that. Do you agree with me, Crystal?
I do. I think also if you use an automated insulin delivery system, it might be one of the best options. But I mean, I think all of these sensors all these CGM companies are really doing a lot right now to up the amount of devices that they connect with. So we might also in 26 see more integration options, maybe also for G7. I think that's worth considering. And I mean, if nothing else, and I know you use this one, there's also the Dexcom G6, right? So the Dexcom G6 is, Tom is wearing it. The Dexcom G6 is, well, the one we had before G7. Right now, both of them are in the market, which I'm really happy about. Have been hearing rumors about G6 being discontinued, but nothing has happened so far. And it's still really widely used by a lot of people. It's a great sensor. It is much larger though. It also has a 2-hour warm-up. It doesn't have the grace period. But the interesting part about G6 is that you insert the sensor and then you click in the transmitter, and the transmitter is a 3-month device. So you have to recycle that. So I would say for me, the G6 was a really good experience. It does not have all the features, all the alarm features that G7 has, but I found it to be a really, really solid device. And I know that's why you're using it as well, because it's solid and also because it's integration, right?
Yeah, I think it's the most integrated CGM. So it's not the newest. It has all these like annoying things like the 2-hour warm up, which is super annoying, and also using the transmitter and a sensor in 2026 is like, why would you do that? You know, we all want all-in-one solution that's like really easy to apply. But I think it's still worth it because it's so predictable and so reliable. I feel like I can really fully rely on it, and that's the main reason why I'm still with this older technology. And I think also you can just integrate it with pretty much anything, with pumps and do-it-yourself solutions and all third-party apps. It just integrates with so many things. What I love Dexcom for as a company is that there is this little trick you can do to to restart the G6 sensor and just use it twice. It's not something we recommend. It's like totally off-label, but you can still do it. And it's been a thing for, I don't know, maybe 6 years or since G6 launched, and they haven't killed it, right? And it's just like something I still do until today, because in some situations it just makes sense. I don't know, I forget a sensor, right? I don't have a new one available. I can restart the old one when I'm on a vacation or something like that. It's just, things can happen, things can go wrong where you don't have another one and you can just restart the old one. I think it's genius. And I'm really, really happy that they haven't killed it, because I'm sure there's a way to kill it quite easily from Dexcom. But I guess now most people on G7 now, so they don't have to worry about it too much anymore. And I think I myself will also move to G7 at some point, probably, because now it seems to be getting more reliable. But I think G6 is still a great option for those of us who are used to it. It just works.
Yeah, I'd say with the restart, it did that, but it didn't always work for me. Sometimes it would like restart and then fail, or restart be extremely inaccurate. So I don't want viewers to think that that's a given that you can do that every time. But yeah, a really, really good product as well. It's funny, the size didn't bother me. Now I have the tiny sensors and I'm like, oh my God, they're so small. But that didn't bother me.
Okay. Yeah. It doesn't bother me either. The only thing that bothers me is when I'm sleeping and I lie on it and I get these compression lows. But I think we discussed that topic so much in the previous episodes. Really, Dexcom G6 is old, and let's talk about something new, because there is more sensors in the Dexcom portfolio already, and then in 2026. The first one I want to talk about just briefly is Dexcom One Plus, because it has the G7 form factor, but it's like a really easy to use CGM that is also available on prescription in Europe. It has this 30-minute warm-up time. It's actually a lot cheaper than G7 or G6, but it has some drawbacks. So it doesn't integrate with insulin pumps, for example, or it has like a simplified ways to work with the alarms. You cannot silence the alarms. You have no alarm schedule. It's just like little limitation that make it a bit more simple CGM, but really easy application, and it's cheap. And I think that's why in Europe, in some countries, it's really popular, because the insurance companies can somehow justify paying for it and they cannot pay for G7. And I guess that's one of the reasons why Dexcom even came up with it in Europe and not in the US, where maybe it's not needed because of the setup. But yeah, I think it's a really good CGM for people who are looking for like easy option available on prescription in some European countries, like the UK, for example, and don't need to work with the insulin pump in AID setup. What do you think?
And you said it's the size of, well, I haven't tried it obviously because I'm not in Europe. You say
Yeah,
it's the size.
it's the size of G7. So Dexcom One Plus is the size of G7. The hardware is G7 hardware. So the 30-minute warm up, it lasts 10 days plus 12-hour grace period, and all this stuff it has. It's just some of the features are not there, like the pump integration.
Yeah. I don't think so. For example, G7 you can get on. So I wear a Fitbit watch. I can get my G7 data on there. I could get my G6 data on there. I've had some folks from the UK say they couldn't get it on there. So it might be region thing, or it might be because they're on Dexcom One Plus.
Okay. Well, the another limitation of Dexcom One Plus is that it doesn't have direct to watch. But there is another Dexcom that you tested, Crystal, right? You didn't use the Dexcom One Plus, but there is one more that we haven't talked about that you actually used. Do you want to talk about that one?
Absolutely. So that's Dexcom Stelo. Basically, Abbott and Dexcom were like neck to neck on getting, Tom is showing it here, and getting a biosensor to the market. And biosensor just basically means that it doesn't require a prescription here in the States. The interesting part about Stelo is it's based off of G7 hardware. It's just gray. If you see someone walking around, you see them with Dexcom on the back of their arm, and you're like, why is it gray minus white? It's because it's a Stelo. It's actually a 15-day wear. So I guess that is their longest lasting sensor on the market. It's 15 days and 12 hours. So I guess they already have that label as the longest CGM. It also integrates with something like the Oura Ring, and it's meant to be tracking your overall fitness and your overall health, and just provide you with information on how all of these different things impact your blood sugars. It has no alarms, just like the Lingo, it's also a subscription model. They actually priced it exactly the same. I don't remember them. I think they started out being more expensive than Lingo, and now they adjusted it. I'm not sure how big of a success this has been, to be honest.
It is also for people with type 2 diabetes, that it's not only a lifestyle product like Lingo. Lingo is purely lifestyle, and Abbott will have Libre Rio for type 2 diabetes patients. But Stelo is actually meant for people with type 2 diabetes. I think that's how they also market it. I use it myself, although I'm type 1 and it's not for me and la la la. But the reason why I really liked the experience with Stelo when I used it was it was not bothering me as often as Dexcom G7 or G6, let's say. I didn't have these alarms, but what Stelo is all about is identifying spikes, glucose spikes. So it will highlight anytime your glucose spikes after a meal, or when you're stressed, or when you're dehydrated, or whatever. It will just highlight all the spikes for you, and then it lets you track why you had that spike. So always tells you, hey, you had a spike. What did you do 3 hours ago, or 1 hour ago, or 5 hours ago, depending on how long the spike was. And then you can write down what happened, and then sort of adjust your behavior. You can completely ignore it, which in my case I often ignore it because hey, okay, I ate ice cream and I spiked, I know. But for people maybe who are more trying to understand these patterns, just the spike identification without too much other information can be super helpful. And I think what I also liked is they're actually trying to educate the users and explaining, okay, what is glucose, how it works. And so for someone who is just getting started or was diagnosed with prediabetes or type 2 diabetes, and it's not so deep in all the CGM data like the two of us, I think it's a super helpful tool. I really liked some of the features. I'm actually in spike detection, sometimes I could even benefit from it because it tells me, okay, now write down what you did. Because we don't always write these things down. I know when I write things down, I can fix a lot of, let's say, uncomfortable situations going forward. But I don't write it down. But when the app tells me, hey, write it down, maybe I would. So I thought it was nice.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good clarification. It is also for people, it is for people with type 2, but it's not for people who take insulin.
Right.
I think that's the big difference. And that's also why there's no alarms, because do you use any alarm features if you don't inject insulin? That also means that, let's say that you, as someone who do use insulin, want to try this, you don't get that safety net, right? So it's not going to come up and go beep, 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 you're going low, which might be nice for people, or high for that matter. So there's not that alarm fatigue for sure. And it might also just be a way for people to try a sensor without the commitment. Again, you don't need a prescription. There's no barrier. You just go online and you order it. I think that one also has a limited glucose reading. It's from 70 up to 250. So just like the Lingo had a smaller range, so does Stelo. But again, it's based off, hey, if you don't inject insulin, you probably don't need it. When I posted about it, some people disagreed. I would say some of the feedback I was getting from the community, even the non-insulin using community, was hey, sometimes my blood sugars are high and lower. I would have liked to know. But I don't know if that's the outliers.
I don't know. I just thought it could be interesting to really quickly compare Lingo and Stelo, because they are both over the counter, both in the US, and people might be deciding which one is actually right for me. I think really for people with diabetes, I really feel Stelo makes more sense because it doesn't have all this kind of gamification and all these fancy things in there, but it's actually focusing on the things that matter, which are the glucose spikes and reminding you to note down why they happen and give you daily insights every day, how the previous day went. Not only in terms of how many Lingos, which doesn't tell me anything, I think, when I live with diabetes, but more in the diabetes sort of terminology. And also the range is wider with Stelo, right? From 70 to 250. With Lingo is from 55 to 200, which makes sense because as a wellness user, your glucose will probably be lower than someone with diabetes. And so I think the more closer to the diabetes category you are, it might make sense to maybe go with Stelo, and the further away from diabetes you are, it's a stupid way to put it, but I can't think of anything else, the more you might go for Lingo. On the other hand, Stelo only updates every 15 minutes. Lingo updates every single minute. I don't think you need that as a wellness sort of lifestyle user, but it's how how they design it.
I think overall, if we look at the Dexcom portfolio for 2026, Dexcom G7 is definitely the vehicle that they're driving with. They're looking to expand it. We've seen a lot of updates to their app as well over the last year. So my bet is that they're going to continue developing on the app. Hopefully they're going to get an AI that doesn't just recognize what's on your plate, but also tells you, actually it doesn't recognize. Right now, you just take a photo of your food. I foresee that they're also going to have some sort of AI that actually recognize what's in that food and stuff like that. So I find it really interesting that both Abbott as well as Dexcom are kind of like building out these portfolios of or ecosystems of CGMs that sort of caters to different people, where I still feel like the overall Dexcom portfolio provides more information. It seems like, this is a weird way of saying it maybe, but less for the masses and more for people with diabetes.
Yes, I agree.
So we have these two, like, I would say those are the big players. And then we have a lot of other smaller players sort of coming into market. Some of them are not small at all, but some of them are newer to the CGM space, or they're re-entering the CGM space. So one of them you've tried, and I haven't tried it, and I always get questions about this. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about that. And that's the Eversense CGM.
That's right. And I think this is really the most innovative of them all. Because when you think of CGS, they are all the same. But I feel Eversense is just in their own league, like going different routes. I'm not saying they are the best, but it's just, you can clearly see Eversense is taking different direction than Abbott, Dexcom, Medtronic. I just like it. I like these people who just take different road and try to think out of the box. Having said that, it's not like a brand new CGM Eversense. What is relatively new that was launched this year is 365 day. So I should probably say is the first ever implantable CGM sensor. So it has to be placed under your skin by a doctor. It's a quick procedure that I have done, and then it stays under your skin for a whole year. And the sensor itself is actually really small. It's like a size of a small pill. It's definitely smaller than any other one, but you need a transmitter. And I will talk about the transmitter as well. But I just want to first highlight like what I really loved about Eversense. And feel free to jump in, Crystal. I would say the fact that it's not a 10-day or 15-day CGM, but it's a 365-day sensor creates a different experience, because you don't have to deal with the side change process that much. You don't have these, gaps in the graph because you need to wait for a new sensor to warm up. And I think that's one of the benefits of this system. You can use it all year long. Just full transparency, the one I used was a 6-month CGM. It was an older version, but it's basically the same thing. It just only works 6 months. There are a few things you need to do. So there's a little transmitter that you need to place on your skin on top of the sensor, like this. So the sensor is under the skin, the transmitter you put on the skin with a little patch. And the patches, you get one patch every day, you have a clean patch. So, and it means you can take off the transmitter whenever you want. You can take a shower without the transmitter, and you can put it back on whenever you want, which makes it really discreet. You can take it off whenever you want, but then you don't have the data. So if you want the data, you need to keep the transmitter on. What I think is really cool is that this transmitter can also vibrate. So you get on-body vibration alerts when the glucose is high or low. You can get a vibration on body, which is, especially at night when you sleep, it's more likely to wake you up than your phone vibrating, which I think is also good. And yeah, the patch is just super nice. It's a silicone patch, so it doesn't irritate skin at all. I feel like it's like super nice to the skin, except you need to have your skin cut to put the sensor in. You get this nice patch that doesn't irritate it. So I guess you have to choose what you like. But I really like the experience. I have a few more things that I liked, but what do you think about Eversense, Crystal? Like, have you considered it? What are your thoughts on it?
So I'll tell you why I have not. I've considered it, but I'll tell you why I've not decided to try it. One thing is I scar super easily. I've seen the scars. They're small. I even have scars after using FreeStyle Libre, which is tiny. So that's one thing. Now that they've gone to once a year, it's a little bit more interesting because I would only get a new scar on my arm every year. Two, I think the transmitter is huge.
Yes,
it's really,
it is.
the positive is every time I would knock it off, you can just put it back on and you don't lose the sensor. I guess that's an upside. but to me, that's really big. It also needs to be charged daily. So I think there are some downsides to it still. I'd say I'm more excited about the upcoming portfolio, but I know you're going to talk about that. But right now, it's not the product for me.
I think the charging makes it a bit annoying because every day you need to charge it. So the transmitter lasts, okay, it would last 48 hours, but if you leave it on 48 hours when it's new, the battery will be to zero, and then it takes 15 minutes to charge from zero to full. So it makes more sense to charge it every day. You take a shower, you charge it for 5-10 minutes, and it's always back to full. Not the end of the world, but then you need to position it properly, and it's also sort of like a process. You need to figure out how to do that. I mean, it's not complicated, but at the beginning it takes some time to learn. What I wanted to say, that one more thing you have to do is calibration. So for the 365-day sensor, you need to calibrate it once per week, to do a finger prick and calibrate it. Now it's, some people don't like this, some people love it. I'm actually more in the camp, okay, this is great, because when I used Eversense, I think it was the most, really the most accurate and reliable for me personally compared to anything else. And it was because I had to calibrate it. With the older version, I have to calibrate every day. And that was actually quite a lot of calibrations, and that was a bit annoying. I think weekly calibration is more like in the middle, which might not be too annoying and can give that accuracy and reliability factor as well. But I honestly am saying this was the most accurate CGM for me. Not Dexcom, not FreeStyle Libre, but this. But at the expense of calibrating it regularly. So I guess everyone has to choose, okay, what is better for you? What fits your lifestyle better? So yeah, what else should I say about it? Doesn't have any plastic waste.
That's true. And maybe talk about integration.
Yeah, integration. So at the time I used it, there was no integration. It didn't integrate with any insulin pumps. But now they do integrate with Twist, I believe. I wrote it down. Yeah, Twist AID system right now in the US. And Twist is actually the commercial version of the loop algorithm, which I'm using, which makes me kind of excited that this pump company is now working with them. But yeah, it's still very limited, right? If you want Omnipod or if you want tandem pump, it doesn't work with Eversense yet. So I think, right now, I would recommend this CGM to anyone who is struggling with Dexcom or FreeStyle Libre for whatever reason, especially like if you have issues with adhesive. Like if you have skin irritations from the adhesive with Dexcom or Libre, you might really like the silicone adhesive because it's really much better experience. It's not so sticky. You can replace it every day, and that's really cool. And also the on-body vibrations, if alarms don't wake you up at night, I think that's a cool thing for someone who just doesn't hear the alarms. But I would say, like, if you're happy with Libre or Dexcom, I would not tell you to go to Eversense. It's not for everybody, but some people love it. I feel the community behind Eversense is really strong, although it's quite small.
It's also interesting. So Eversense started out in Europe, I believe, with the 180-day. And then the 365 was launched in the States. And then it's coming to Europe in 2026. I don't know.
Yes, I hope so.
When they launch different things. But I think that's a big thing for 26. But you want to talk about some of it because they also announced some other updates, which sounds...
Yeah, so you're right. In Europe, we still have the 180-day version, but I hope we will have the 365 version soon, probably 2026. I'm definitely expecting it, so please, Eversense or Ascensia, which is the distributor, we are expecting it. But they announced, they made a little press release not so long ago where they announced 2 new projects that they have in the pipeline, kind of building further on this tool that they have. And the first one is called Gemini. And it's funny because Gemini, they call it the first CGM with no on-body transmitter. As a second sentence, they say you can use the sensor only and scan it to read glucose on demand, which is like a flash monitoring, sort of. Or you can use a transmitter for real-time CGM data. So it's funny because they say it's the first CGM with no on-body transmitter, but you can use a transmitter if you want real-time data, which kind of like, okay. So on this one, they're doing a pivotal study and they're expecting to launch it in Q4, which is actually quite soon. And then the second project, which I think is a lot more exciting if it works, is called Freedom. And that actually is an integrated Bluetooth for direct and continuous communication between the sensor and a smartphone, which means they will completely drop the transmitter, and they're trying to send the data from the sensor that will be under the skin directly to the phone. This means you would have real-time glucose readings on the phone without anything on the body, which would be pretty cool. But here, they expect it to be commercially available by the end of 2028. So that's the music of the future if that works out. But I think if that works out, or if they can even increase the lifetime, then it might be really, really interesting, because then you don't have to deal with anything, pretty much. No charging, 1 weekly calibration, and I think that would be really cool. I would love to try that if that comes up.
Yeah. I mean, I do see the point of Gemini in the sense that you could maybe use a flash where you just scan it during the day and then you put the transmitter on at night so you get the alarms while you're sleeping. I could see that work for a lot of people. So that's exciting for 2026. But I mean, let's see. I feel like a lot of the announcements we've had about things are going to be here, and then the day passes and we haven't heard anything. So I don't know why there seems to be a lot of delays right now.
Yeah, I think we also need to think about like where the companies are in their life cycle, because you don't hear a lot of announcements from Abbott like next year we will launch something big. Like they're all the time quiet. They don't say anything, but they're a huge company, like a rich company. So they don't need to like talk to the investors and tell them, hey, we need some funding, do this exciting project. But I think Eversense is like completely the opposite. I think they sort of need to be loud so that they're not forgotten. So there are some shareholders who buy their stocks and somebody who gives them funding. Maybe this is completely wrong what I'm saying, but I feel like, depending where the company is, also like how willing they talk about their new projects, because when they are mature, they don't need to talk.
Well, I mean, if we're ready to move on to the next one, that's a really mature company that is coming out with some new stuff this year.
I'm really, really ready for this one. Let's see what you have to say,
Big
Crystal.
one. Because when we talk about mature companies, this is Medtronic MiniMed. And Medtronic MiniMed has been sort of the market leader for insulin pumps. I don't know if they still hold that title. They used to be, at least. But I don't think they've ever really been known for having really great CGMs. They're trying to change that, which I think is interesting. So we can discuss whether or not that's successful, but I think it's really interesting. So they have a new insulin pump that's called the 780G on the market, which is an automated insulin delivery system. It's a hybrid closed loop system. And that one now works with the Guardian 4. So the Guardian 4 is based off of the old form factor that Medtronic has been running with for forever, which looks like a little shell, a seashell. And so it's part of that system, but it can also be used as a standalone. I have not talked to anyone or heard anyone say that they use the Guardian 4 as a standalone. I don't know about you, but I haven't really come across that. It's a 7-day wear, no finger stick, no calibrations needed. So that's a good thing. I think it's great because it integrates with this 780G. So if you're on that system, I think it's great that you have that option. It seems to be better, more accurate than previous options. I know I have a few friends who use the overall system and they love it. It's an algorithm that works for them. But I would say overall with a 7-day wear, compared to the other options we just discussed, is probably not, it wouldn't be my first choice.
Yeah, I think the Guardian 4 was really clunky. I never used it, because even when I saw like how complicated it is to put on, it sort of discouraged me. Okay, this is just too much work. And that's why I'm really excited that Medtronic, who now changed, I guess they're planning to sell their division of diabetes care, and now they will call it MiniMed again, which was the old name they used for their older pumps. And now I'm excited that they are actually coming up with some new CGMs, like new generation CGM, that are a lot more exciting, because except the insulin pump integration and the good algorithm in the pump, Guardian 4, I feel like it didn't really have like almost like anything to offer, and it was like way behind the other ones. I didn't use it myself, so I'm gonna be too harsh here, but I really feel that way.
The funny thing is, the first CGM I was on was a Medtronic Enlight CGM, I think it was called back then. And I actually really liked the form factor because of the shell. It has like a soft it has like a little like curve. That means it's really hard to bump it on anything because it's kind of like almost a little wave rather than a hard surface that a lot of the other CGMs have. So I do like the form. I changed over and I kind of never looked back, but I might try again because I want to try their new CGM that comes out. It's called Simplera. So Simplera is, you have it there. It's new. It's a completely different form. It's square. It's flat and it's a one device. So you don't have a transmitter and a sensor. So you can see it right there. Tom has it in his hands. I would say the downside is it's only approved for 18 years and up. So you can't really use it for kids. But it's a standalone CGM. You can also use it with the InPen, which is the smart pen, insulin pen that I use, which all of a sudden makes it really interesting because I can get real-time integration. It's a 6-day sensor and 24 hours, so basically a 1-week sensor as well. So again, I love that it integrates with my insulin pen. I definitely going to be trying it out. I think it looks nicer. It seems like Medtronic MiniMed is kind of getting on the wave of CGM development. They're doing something new and they're trying to improve, which I really appreciate. And you tried it, right?
Yeah, it is. I've tried a bunch of them actually, and the form factor is like it's like very similar to Libre 2. It's like similar size, and okay, it's a square, but it feels similar. It's a little bit less exposed, so that's what I like. So it's not as easy to bump off as FreeStyle Libre, for example. So I think, although it's not the smallest, it's actually quite user-friendly in that respect, I think. And what I really like is that Simplera can be user-calibrated. So it's factory calibrated. You don't have to do any calibrations. But if you want, you can go in the app. You need to click a lot, but when you know where to click, you can go to a place where you can calibrate the sensor. And I just like it. I'm so happy they left it there. And I also used it with InPen, which was like a big test for me, going from insulin pump to a smart pen with a CGM. And I thought it was an amazing experience. So if I was a MDI user or a smart pen user, I would definitely consider using Simplera and not Dexcom, because the CGM was accurate. Okay, I had to change it every 7 days, but it's not the end of the world for me because I have insurance and it can be paid by my insurance. I don't have to pay more than for Dexcom or Libre. And you cannot integrate InPen smart pen with any other CGM in this user-friendly way. Like, you don't get the real-time data. I know you can integrate it with Dexcom, but you have like 3-hour delay or something like that, 2-hour delay. But yeah, I think, and that's how I'm getting to also my sort of like conclusion or verdict for Simplera, the standalone CGM. I think it's best for those who just use InPen, because if you use smart pen like InPen, it's just like a natural choice, and it was accurate, it was reliable. I actually really liked it. So compared to Guardian, it's really really good looking and modern thing. So why not?
2-hour warm period, right?
I don't quite remember how long is the warm. It is
I
possible.
believe it is 2 hours.
Either 1 or 2 hours, yes.
Yeah.
But I think because you have the grace period and because you have this system that starts automatically, I feel you might be able to get rid of the warm-up period. But I'm not 100% sure. I don't think I tried that. So please, again, just double check if that's what you plan to do. But yeah, I like it simpler.
Once it gets like broader available in the States, I will be testing it out. Right now, you can sign up on their website. You've been informed whenever it gets launched in your area. But right now, I don't think you get your hands on it. So what's interesting is they're also developing the Simplera Sync, but the Simplera Sync will then only work with the 780G pump. So again, it's them focusing a lot on their own portfolio, which had been like, I'd say, a tradition for Medtronic MiniMed. That's been what they've been doing pretty much wherever. It's been kind of, I always like compared it to Apple, where if you have an Apple product, you can use it with other Apple products, and that's it. You cannot integrate it with anything else. And they've kind of taken that approach to their portfolio until now. So what has also happened is that we got the Instinct CGM, which is the first time we're seeing another company's CGM, Abbott FreeStyle Libre CGM, being integrated with Medtronic product. So it is the same sensor as the FreeStyle Libre 3 Plus, the same form, but it's rebranded as basically a Medtronic sensor to work with their insulin pump, with the 780G insulin pump as well. So it's a 15-day wear. You can't calibrate it. It's way smaller, as you can see. It's for ages 7 and up. So the question is now, okay, so if Medtronic allows this CGM to integrate with their 780G, I think you asked the question, Tom, like, why would you use the Simplera if you have that option?
I asked the question and I actually kind of have the answer. I just want to kind of repeat what you said because I feel I just want people to really get like what question you're actually trying to answer. So Simplera is the standalone version that we talked about for quite a while here. But then Simplera Sync is Simplera form factor that integrates with Medtronic 780G insulin pump. And it's a 7-day Simplera sensor. It's just called Sync because it syncs with the pump. But then Instinct, which is so similar, but it's actually the FreeStyle Libre sensor based on Libre 3. So it's a 15-day sensor. So I was asking this question, why would somebody pick a 7-day CGM or even 6-day CGM over a 15-day? And I got this answer from Dr. An. Great resource. If someone is very nerdy, wants to follow someone who really understands this, then follow Dr. An. And so he's saying there is only 3 reasons why you would use Simplera over Instinct. And the first reason is you really want calibration. You don't get calibration on the Libre sensor or the Instinct sensor. If you need calibration, go with Simplera. And the other one is, okay, if you have some sort of like skin irritation type issues, you might want to go for like a shorter lifetime sensor, which is the 6-day, and you get 5 of these sensors per month is what he says. I don't know exactly how it works with insurance, but it actually means, you can replace it a lot more often. And, if you have issues with adhesive, maybe that's the way to go. And the last reason why you would go for Simplera Sync is if you are really happy with the Guardian sensing technology, then you might also want to go with this because the filament that goes in the skin and what's actually reading the data is the same that Guardian, the old Medtronic sensor, used. So maybe you're not happy with Libre sensing technology, but you like Guardian, then you should go for this because this is based on that technology and not based on Abbott's technology. I hope that made sense. And this is, I think, getting a bit too nerdy.
No, totally. But I mean, again, like the other companies, it's exciting to see someone, especially some that for a lot of people is considered really old school, like Medtronic, MiniMed, doing something different and branching out, coming out with new form factors, coming out with things that integrate, collaborating with other companies. So I think that's really exciting. And hopefully we're just going to see more of that because I think that's going to strengthen the overall offering from Medtronic.
Yeah. So I don't want to be too harsh with Medtronic, but when I saw how the Instinct sensor looks, how the packaging looks, I was sort of like, almost I felt like I would be embarrassed if I was supposed to like offer this to my customers because it has this MiniMed blue packaging. So it doesn't have Libre 3 packaging, obviously. It has a nice MiniMed packaging. But when you open it, then you get this applicator that's actually yellow because it's the FreeStyle Libre and it's written Abbott on it. Okay, I know they're collaborating. It's great that they allow us to use this option, but it just looks so off-brand. You have a blue box and then you have a yellow applicator. As a marketing guy, I wouldn't like this. The only thing they did, they took away the FreeStyle Libre that's written here. They took it away, so it's only Abbott. I'm just teasing Medtronic a little bit here. It's okay. I think it's better to have the options than to focus on packaging.
So in 2026, we're probably going to see a full-blown launch globally of both the Simplera as well as Simplera Sync. So that's really interesting. The Instinct is already here. So if you're interested in a Medtronic pump and you want the integration, you can already check that out. But yeah, new stuff coming. So that's really exciting. And there's another really big manufacturer in the diabetes space that's also coming out with new stuff. So I know you tried some of that, and you want to cover that, Tom?
Yes, I did. The name of this company is Roche, and I don't think they ever did anything in the CGM space. They are in the pump space as well and blood glucose monitors. But yeah, they have a new CGM and it has a very long, I have to remember name, Accu-Chek SmartGuide. So here is how the packaging looks like, and here is how the applicator looks like, and here is how the sensor looks like. But that's not really that important because what's really like the competitive advantage, I would call it, of this CGM is that they're trying to predict glucose. So they're trying to incorporate glucose predictions into the environment, and they try to go like much further than other companies. And so they basically give us 3 predictive features, sort of like where our glucose will be going. And I guess I will just quickly run through what these three are. So the first prediction they give is a 2-hour prediction, which basically gives you sort of like a range where your glucose might go in the next 2 hours. Then the next one is a 30-minute low prediction, which is sort of like a warning as a notification or alert on your phone. Hey, in 30 minutes, you might go low. Just giving you some time to act before it really happens. And the last time, which I find really interesting, if they can make it work well, and I will tell you how it works so far, is a nighttime low prediction. So they give like a prediction for 7 hours ahead of time in the evening to tell you what are the chances of us going low at night. And they also give some tips within an app what you can do about it to not go low. And, I used it. I just used 2 of these sensors. There are some bugs still, I think, that need to work on, but I kind of like this idea of helping you deal with things before they happen in like a not too invasive way. And we can talk more about the experience, but what do you think about this idea of predicting glucose or like looking in the future, Crystal? How do you feel about that in general? Like, do you think they're going in the right direction? Because they're also like in a little bit slightly unique direction they're going with this.
Well, I mean, it's funny because I think at one time, a few months ago, I brought up, I think the big differentiator for CGMs is going to be the apps and what they do. Whereas the actual sensors can be more of commodity. They all kind of look the same now. They're kind of round, or for Dexcom MiniMed, they're square, but they're all flat. They have a smaller surface and all that. So I think that's really interesting. If it's accurate, I would say, especially for someone who's not on an automated insulin delivery system, nighttime lows or highs for that matter is a real pain in the neck. So having a device that can help solve for that would be pretty amazing. Imagine if you got like a notification before going to bed, like, hey, you might want to eat a snack, or hey, you might want to take half a unit or a unit of insulin so you don't go high. That would be, I think, for a lot of people, tremendously helpful, especially, now I'm talking a lot here because I just got excited, but especially right before bed. I think for a lot of people, for me as well, sometimes it could be really, I can have a lot of anxiety about taking insulin right before bed, because if you take too much, you'll go low in the middle of the night. And those are probably the most uncomfortable lows. I tend to steer towards taking, I'd rather not run high all night. So I often do take the insulin, but it's always in the back of the mind, like, is this the right choice?
Yeah, I think exactly for this is the nighttime low prediction, like exactly for the situation you described. I think you could be a marketing person for Roche in this respect, because I think this is sort of what they were telling me about this this technology. You describe it better than me, who actually used it. But I think the thing with the prediction is it's only a prediction. Like, you cannot rely on it 100%, and the prediction is only as good as the data that it's based on. And so I used it, and I feel the initial phase is sort of challenging, because what they are using for the prediction, I feel, is some sort of data they already collected from the users who used this during clinical trials. And so there is some probability based on how the glucose is moving, where it might go in the future. And I'm just hoping that they will, and I couldn't really test it because I would have to use it for a lot longer time, so that the sensor can collect my data and the AI can work with the information that's coming from me based on my inputs to actually make it relevant for me and like more accurate for me. I don't know how far they can go with that, but I think it's like an interesting experiment, because they're really using AI to crunch the information. And if this works, it might be really cool. Right now, there's a couple of hiccups, as I said. One, the sensor is huge. Like, this is the sensor. It sort of looks like Libre, but when you put it to Libre 3, for example, it's like 4 times as big. Even when you put it to the older Libre, it's still bigger. When you put it to Eversense, okay, it's a lot smaller. But I feel it's quite big, right? It's a 14-day sensor, 60-minute warm-up, nothing special there. One more thing I didn't love is that this whole solution is using 2 different apps. So one is for the real-time glucose data that you're getting from the sensor and your alarms and stuff. And the second one is for all the predictions. So you have to switch between apps if you want to see the predictions, which is not the most user-friendly experience, I think. And another thing that you need to do is you need to be online to get the prediction, because the app interacts with some sort of like a cloud database to generate the predictions. So, these are sort of like limitations that I think they need to work on, and hopefully they'll be able to get rid of all these things that are sort of in the way of like a more user-friendly experience.
What is their a launch timeline?
So they launched in Europe. Many countries in Europe already are available. I think they have about 13 countries right now where they launched. And in terms of US, I'm sure everybody cares about the US. The only thing I found is that Roche is in discussion with FDA regarding entering the US market with this sensor, which is like, it can be anything, but it sounds like they're not very far. One more thing I have here is like, sort of like, again, like who this sensor might be helpful for. And I would say definitely not for someone who is on automated insulin delivery system because it doesn't integrate with any pumps, but it really might be for someone who's wanting to maybe like spend a little bit more time living their life and getting this notification or prediction when you need it without, interacting with the CGM app too much. Because really the system should be like helping you to spend more time outside of tracking the data or analyzing the data, but like give you the information at the time where you need it and, let you sleep at night without fearing the hypo, which I think a lot of people are. So I think they're definitely in the right direction there. So if you fall in that category, it might be an interesting option for you.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, if they can deliver on what they're promising, it sounds like you have like your own little diabetes coach in your pocket, which is really cool. You're right. I should totally be on the marketing team of
Yeah, definitely.
Pocket.
There's also one more thing coming up, and that's that they announced an integration of My Sugar app with this CGM Accu-Chek SmartGuide. I'm not using My Sugar myself, but it seems like it's some sort of like a digital logbook. And by integrating these two things, I guess people will get a lot of value. But I can't really sort of explain what the value is, but it sounded like a big deal, just combining the glucose data with everything else that people are tracking in this digital logbook. And I'm hearing My Sugar is actually used by a lot of people. So if someone is listening, maybe you can write us a comment if how you could use this and if it would add any value to you as well.
Yeah. I used My Sugar at one point. It has this little like monster that comes up and cheers for you. It's a very happy app. Oh, I remember it as being a good thing. And I think Roche bought it a few years ago, so it makes sense that it's integrating. That's kind of part of their diabetes portfolio. That's exciting. So that's new stuff. So we're getting new things in 2026.
Yeah. And I think we have one more we need to talk about, Crystal, and that's a Chinese CGM. So a Chinese invasion. Do you want to kick it off, or should I?
That sounded all wrong. No, sure. I'll start out talking about the one that's already on the market, since that I've used it, you've used it. That is the GS1 from Sibionics. It is a Chinese produced CGM. It is in Europe. It's a 2-piece system that Tom is showing there. It's a 14-day wear. You just like click the two together, you insert it, you wear it. What I liked about it was a no frills kind of thing. In Europe, I could just go in online, order it without a prescription, have it sent to my house. Not a problem. Not my house, because I don't live in Europe, but where I was staying. Super easy. It was fairly affordable. Put it on, it worked. It's a little larger, but I would say, well, the big disadvantage obviously is if you're in the States, you can't get it right now. And what I found when I was doing a little bit more research is that Abbott actually filed a patent infringement suit against Sibionics in Europe. So this could have implications for this product overall. I mean, will it ever get to the States? Would it get closed down in Europe? So I don't really know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I have a little bit of background on this because I go to these diabetes conferences in Europe, and there was a point where Sibionics didn't present their products. And when I was like asking around, it was because of the litigations with Abbott. And they seem to reach a settlement, as these companies always do. And now they are sort of like back in the game at these conferences, which makes me believe they probably figured things out with Abbott. I don't know exactly how. And they're also bringing this new product, which is the GS3, which is actually a lot smaller and sort of like a closer to Libre 3 sensor. And it's supposed to be the thinnest on the market. So Libre is the smallest and the GS3 is supposed to be the thinnest. But I haven't unboxed it yet. I haven't put it on it. So I can't tell you how it is. But I should make a video about it soon.
Can you order that one right now in Europe? Or did it find its way to you like back ways?
Well, yes, in Spain, for example. And it should be in Germany soon. I'm now waiting for, I guess it's more like the company is waiting for more countries to launch. I think they will be then running more like marketing events and stuff like that. And I also want to do video, but I'm kind of waiting when it will be available to more people, because I just don't want to review a product that they can only buy in Spain. But I think it's good to, I know, like, people might have different opinions on like anything coming from certain countries, but I think it's good to see also some competition coming from like a different part of the world, because I guess it just puts more pressure on the companies who are in the space to keep enhancing the products.
Well, I agree. I mean, and you and I have talked about this before. The more competition, the better. And the more options, the better, because we're not all the same and we will need different things to be successful in managing our diabetes. And so I welcome any any new thing. Obviously, they should not be stealing technology from Abbott, but it sounds like they figured that out. But yeah, I think, again, I've used Medtronic, I've used Libre, I've used Dexcom, I've tried Sibionics, any of the other ones on the list. I think that's the ones on the list. And every time I try one, there are things that works for me, things that don't work. And then, fortunate enough to be able to then choose the one that fits me and my life best at the time.
Yeah, we are all different. Just wrapping up Sibionics, I can't quite think of like who this sensor is for, because it's really like quite similar to like let's say the FreeStyle Libre sensors. Like, it has a little bit of everything. It has 14-day wear time, 30-minute warm up, and it has like a little bit of everything. It doesn't have pump integration again, so I would not recommend it to someone who wants to do AID, but it can be purchased. I think in many countries it can be purchased from the website without going through prescriptions. So if someone doesn't want to go through prescriptions, maybe that can be an option if it's in your country. I can't think of any other like group of users. I know they're huge in China, but I guess if someone is listening from China, let us know, write us a comment.
Well, I mean, the adhesive is most likely also different than the adhesive on some of the other CGMs. So if you have issues with the adhesive, the sensor's sticking, if you have breakout in highs, whatever from the adhesive, this might be a product that's worth trying just to see if your skin reacts differently to this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've through all these sensors. Have we forgotten anything?
I'm sure we have, but it's okay. I think that was a very comprehensive overview of what's going to be available on the CGM market in 2026. And who knows, there might be something coming like in from the side, and we might have to have a conversation about that in a few months. But I think this gives people an overview of what's available, what can they choose from, and what works for different groups.
Yeah, thanks a lot for sharing your insights, Crystal. I think one thing will be coming is the non-invasive CGM watch, but don't believe it because it's never accurate. I'm using one right now, and let's see what it's showing. 07. It's actually 125, so right now it's quite close, but usually it's completely off. Just don't believe it. I'm sure there will be one coming, non-invasive, that will work, but not yet. But yeah, thanks a lot for chatting with me, Crystal, on this. And if you are still here, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel, because that will help us reach more people and we'll be able to do more videos like this in the future. I think we should do this every year to update ourselves on the CGM and maybe on the insulin pumps as well.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Thank you for all your insights, Tom. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Ciao.
Bye-bye.